Okay, let's get this turned off. Hey, buddy. Hey, everybody. Stream time. Let's get the, let's get a little Einhander on here. Sure, why not? Get some lively. Alrighty. Just checking all the switches and dials and all that crap. Alright. Hey, can you hear me? Music good? Sound? Thumbs up? Voice good. Excellent. Seal of approval. Alright. When I turn this down a little bit. There we go. Turn it down for me, not for you guys. You guys get a face full of Einhander. Was messing around with a little stuff yesterday because I sort of in a brain lock. And it was fun. So the main thing was to try and just get a little more liveliness in the world when you're driving around it. Apparently really slow startups. There we go. We're getting this stack leak thing here. This is like a common Unity thing. Not a common thing. It happens when the editor's open and the game isn't running also, so it's probably my fault, but it says to set things that only Unity can help with, so oh geez. Alright, so show you what we've been up to. Hey, look at this. Click. Hey, numpad on. So getting some more physics objects. See, I always lament you guys who are working on 2D games that you can whip in some stuff really quickly, right? Hey, I drew a sprite in like 5 minutes and it's in the game and it's awesome. And I'm like, oh, all right, I dumpster dove for some stuff in the, from the asset store, and it's kind of okay, and here you go. But this is the sort of shit that I can do really easily because, hey, it's a 3D engine with physics and stuff, and so having things you can drive over and knock around is cool. What's up with my frame rate? Trust me, having physics objects, not really a huge thing. But, hey, it looks rad. Knock down some telephone poles. Shit like that's easy. So, why not take advantage of the engine, right? Blow stuff up. Yeah. So Jim says, last 5 minutes, sprite drawn. Yeah, I know. He's been practicing for a long time. I know that if you look at old Dungeon Man stuff, it's come a long ass way, and that's with the help of some great people. But he's become a pretty damn good sprite artist on his own. So I guess it's up to me to become a mediocre Blender 3D guy, hopefully before the end of this project. So I'm going to be doing some, not today, but I'm going to be doing some more model, repainting of cars and setting up some models and stuff like that. So that's going to be really cool. Promise, really cool. Sorry, cat attack. Alright, so what I was doing with this is I have Sam. Okay, well, hey. Alright, so today I decided to leave the door open and just see what happens with these cats. So hey. This is Sam. He's kind of clingy. I'm gonna do this with one hand until for a couple minutes. Let him get it out of his system, and then we're gonna get on with the two-handed development. All right. Hey Sam, come on, get it. There he is. What a charming little guy. All right. Yep. You're happy. Okay, so. The barrels I'm setting up. I created a new death type. So I had death types ragdoll. So if there was a ragdoll set up on like a character, an enemy, which probably we have up here somewhere, enemy data. There we go. Here's a gang member. He's got a death type of ragdoll. Hop into the code here. Bring it over your screen so you can see it. There you go. Ha! Look at that. Death type. References to death type here. So I created a new one, multi-rigid body. So if there are any rigid bodies on an entity, I set them up, turn on the rigid body, and let them become physics objects. And that's worked out really well. So what I did with the barrel. Let's look at that barrel prefab. It's barrel a._pf. There you are. Cats are being cats. And let's see. So this barrel actually only has one rigid body on it. So if you don't know Unity Engine, rigid body is something you can put on any entity, and it's got to have like a box collider or something around it, some way to know what the collision is somewhere within the object. But then you just give it a rigid body, and it seems like something you turn on and off, like, hey, I want the rigid body on or off. It's not how that works. You said it is kinematic, which means don't use physics. Just do whatever the programmer tells you to. The program tells you to. The moment you turn off is kinematic, which is what I do in code when when this object dies. So this is all the death stuff that happens with an entity. Turn off is kinematic. You toss it in the air, and it just becomes a physics object at whatever mass we want. So that's pretty rad, right? So pretty happy with just being able to do that. I mean, ragdolls seriously took me like 20 minutes to do when I first did them, other than rigging the darn thing up. I mean, it still stretches the limbs and stuff a little bit, but so this entity, I just started adding multi-rigid body to various objects. Let's spawn a few and see what we can get. Long startup. All right. Strong Kennedy. The soulless, soulful fields. I don't check for contradictions in my location name generator, and it's delightful anyway, so I can't complain. So let's spawn and barrel 2. Hey, it's a cluster of barrels, and hey, they fly around too, but there's 2 of them. Spawn and fuel dump. So the fuel dump is the thing that you blow up in the city to complete certain objectives. And this one I can... Come on. It's kind of beefy. I was just playing with some of the balance levels. But yeah, you know, barrels everywhere. How awesome is that? So I'm going to play with this a little bit because this effect, carfire_loop, is a little tame for my taste. Carfire_loop. What do we got? All right, so right now I'm editing a prefab in Unity, and that is, in this case, it holds a particle system. And this has got a bunch of stuff. I mean, actually, it's created for a car fire, so it's supposed to just sit here and be vertical. That's why there's sort of these. Let's turn off some of these pieces here. Inner fire. Oh no. Let's restart that. See, look at this. I'm in the editor, and this debug spectacular you can still puke it out. So I got to figure out what the hell's going on with that. But I mean, the game isn't even running, so I'm not even really sure what is going on here. Unless I have some weirdo editor stuff for some of my assets, which certainly could be. I gotta check more of that out. So I'm gonna turn off. Let's turn off the fire floaters. So look at the smoke. All right. All right. Tell you what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna turn off this because I hate that, like, I guess it's kind of clown shoes fire there. Move these out. I'm just going to get rid of that fire altogether. And now, at least when I'm moving it around, got something, but it's still not great. So want these fire floaters to fire in all directions. Let's see what we got. So what I'm going to edit right now is some stuff within the particle system for Unity. Is this big enough for people to see? I don't know. I got like 4 people, so if you're watching, just let me know if that text is too small. I'll see if I can like make it bigger. In fact, I think I'm going to do that right the hell now. I don't actually know what that is. I wish I had Rider. I don't. Yeah. All right. Well, I'll just trust me that over there on the right, you've got a bunch of sliders that I can move around. Here, I'm going to bring this inspector over so at least it's not blocked by my little to-do list there. All right. So these fire floaters. Let's add an inspector over here too. There we go. I can work either way. Great. So I'm gonna, since this new thing is gonna be like when it flies up in the air. Shoot, I just edited car loop itself. Hey, look at this. Performance anxiety makes me do stupid things, but hey, that's okay. I'm gonna discard the changes because it lets you do that. Let's get car fire loop out here again. Actually, let's look at this. This is what the original car fire looked like. You know, Unity is full of assets that you... yeah, the editor's going to be hard to see, but not impossible. I know what you're saying. So yeah, you know, this is an example of something that you know, you can download Unity, and it's like, wow, that's really cool. And it's sort of initially you think, wow, that sort of stuff with all that fiddly detail is pretty awesome, right? That's like, hey, I bought this asset, looked cool in the video, but the problem is just you shrink it down to like this big, and you got little cartoon, or let's say out of bizarrely scaled objects, like, you know, vehicles that are a little too big for the buildings they're around and stuff like that. Something that's only semi-realistic, this sort of stuff, unless it adds a lot of interesting silhouette detail and looks okay from a distance, otherwise you just basically got like some yellow static here and some gray crap coming out of it. So switched over to something that was obviously much more stylized, and I've been really happy with that sort of stuff. Unfortunately, the guy that made these asset packs, he made a couple other ones, but he's working on Minecraft now. He was somewhere, I don't even think he was in the US, but now he's working on Minecraft, on some sort of fantasy Minecraft Diablo thing, which will probably destroy us all when that gets released. But yeah, he makes great cartoony effects, so it's going to be rad for Minecraft, but not so good for those of us that were relying on him to release more packs. So I'm looking for more stylized packs that are gonna, kind of do the deed. All right, so I just made a new Fire loop. Let's call it Flying Fire Loop VFX. All right, Flying Fire VFX. This is gonna be our new one. I'm gonna get rid of some of that. Again, I get rid of that inner fire. That stuff's no good. Let's put these all to... Actually, yeah, let's reset the transforms. So what I'm editing up here in the upper right is transform information, and that's going to give you all the position, rotation, scale, and you can move it around here in the editor. I can scale things up if I want, but sometimes it's nice to just type things in. So that's what I'm doing up here. I'm going to, let's turn off the floaters here for a sec so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to bring down the size of this fire just a little bit. Everything was scaled down, so I'm actually going to just adjust it right here. Let's go 0.4 to 1. Let's see, and if I move it around, it's still a little puffy. I think I kind of want something that is distance-based. And hey, what do you know? I think there is a... somewhere out here there is a spawn with distance scaler. All right, let's do this first. First thing I'm going to do is shape. So right now it's set to like launch stuff in a cone. Well, this thing's going to be flying in the air. It's going to be throwing smoke and fire everywhere. So I'm gonna, I'm just going to turn this into a box, and I'm going to give that box size pretty small size. So most things are going to come out. I mean, yeah, I could do a sphere, right? That's really what I want, but I don't know. It's just like if I can't use a box, I just do because. Hey, it's Kilby. I love your explosions. Thanks. Yeah, I really thought the game took an upturn when I found the assets online. Here, actually, I like this guy, EffectCore. I'll look at the asset store here. So yeah, like some people like hire tons of artists, and I am working a little bit with artists, but this is also sort of my bread and butter here. Let's do EffectCore. Yeah, Chris Nordgren is this guy's name, and let's see if we can fire this up. Oh hell, let's open it in the browser. There he is. You can't like watch videos and stuff in the editor browser, but so yeah, he's got some cool stuff. You can edit colors and all that. Being able to edit colors is nice. Definitely, that's all something I could have done by hand, but it's definitely nice to have something with all the spheres and the bits coming out and the little flamey bits, and really just for learning, right? Like in terms of like, hey, this technique really works in this case. like how he does specific impact cones and stuff like that. I'm gonna go to one of his others. Yeah, let's look at stylized projectiles. This one's cool. So this one's super stylized. Like, this is almost like good for Black World. But I like how he does these impact pows, right? These big sort of like pokey things. Yeah, this one's a little weirdo. But yeah, like big spiky things. Those are sometimes they're models. Sometimes it's just like a cone with a cool like shader on it, and that's plenty, right? I can use that cone in other ways, and in this case, it looks like there's like a hemisphere for these for some of these muzzle flashes. And so yeah, when this guy does stuff, I definitely pay attention. I follow him on Twitter. He does, hey, Melee Pack. All right, I'm gonna look at all the things because I like this guy's stuff. So right, like, get the swingy impacts, and this is, you just doing melee or whatever, and get something that really is punchy. Kind of gets the point across. Often this sort of effect, it does 10 times more work than an animation ever could. So, in my case, I guess I got I got the dogs that bite you right now. And actually, I use an effect that's kind of like this from somebody else. Little swipe sort of thing. But it's it's cool to know that that's out there. So I haven't bought that pack or anything, but I like that. I like that work for sure. So let's go back to this. This quality foam, yes. All right, so I'm just going to spherize direction. Yeah, that basically takes the whatever displacement it has from the origin, and it decides to always thrust the thing in that direction. So I'm going to give it a little less of a start speed here. 5, 2, give it a little poof. Let's drag it around. It's still too poofy. So I need, so it's still too many puffs, right? If it's going to be moving, I want it to spawn at a higher rate. And hey, look at that. We got rate over time and rate over distance. So over here on the right, in some way that you probably can't see, probably see it here though. Look at that. Maybe if you can read like microtext. I'm able to set the emission rate, so I could certainly make this like crap out like 1,000 things, which is great. Let's go back to where we were, which was some number I can't remember. 40, 15. It was 15. But I'm going to also do a rate over distance. So if I move it, I can tell it to spawn more stuff. And let's bring the origin, because it's just going to be coming out of like barrels and stuff that's pretty small. So I don't want it to start like way inside a sphere. I'd rather have it mostly start in the middle and then go in random directions out of it. Although I'm gonna turn this darn size down even more because it's totally out of control. And let's bring that speed down. There we go. Still not great, frankly. I'm not pleased with my work here, but let's bring this rate over distance down a little bit. Just looking to get some quick flare. And I'm going to turn this start speed down even more. All right, let's try that. Why not? I can't guarantee it's going to look like anything but just a big pile of sprites, but let's give it a shot. All right, so we just got done doing that. Oh, we got fire floaters to edit too. So let's check that out. Isolate this. Restart. Whew. All right, so we got our fire floaters. They are also doing a bit of a weirdo thing here. Oh, they're doing it in a hemisphere again, so let's do the same thing. Box. I keep editing the wrong thing. Force a habit, guys. In fact, I'm just gonna move that to do box. Doesn't really matter anyway. At least you can mostly see what's going on here. All right, so I'm just going to spawn out of a little box again. What the hell? Look at that. It's still pretty weird. What it's doing is it's actually using a noise filter to give it sort of a wispy look. So let's see. Let me launch it at a higher speed just to see what happens here. Whoa, that's really high. And this stuff's pretty cool. They added this like a couple years ago, and you can basically make, you know, sprites. Let's see, if I just launch this like straight up, right? Sphereize direction to 1. So right now it's only launching this way, on the Z-axis in this case, and that's what particles do by default. And if I turn the strength down to 0, this is what you'd normally get, right? They just keep going, and they rise a little bit. Why they rise is there's a gravity value here, gravity modifier. So between 0.1 and 0.5, and I'm not even really a big fan of that much of a variance in like physical properties like that, especially when you've got your own sort of interesting method of making the movement interesting, which is this. So if I turn this on, it uses this Perlin noise, which is what I talked about last week, to make it swirl. And if I make this last longer, sure, let's give it a little lifetime. It kind of sways as it goes up. It's pretty rad. So you can actually do some really great stuff with that. Let me go back to there we go. Little guys again. Sweet. So let's see. I'm gonna sphereize direction again. Just throw it in all directions. It's fine. It's not gonna be amazing, but if I turn both of these on, and if I drag it around, I should see something. Here, let's restart. There we go. Okay, that's OTT, over the top, but hey, I'm all for over the top right now. Rather be too awesome and scale back than the other way around. I'm going to turn on autosave because rather not have to worry about saving each time, and I can always revert in source control if I screw something up. All right, so right there I made flying fire loop _ VFX. Well, I'll tell you what, I'm going to attach that to the barrels, because, hey, the barrels, they need to be all explodey. And I'm definitely going to want to attach that to cars as well. In fact, I'm going to look at where car fire loop is used. And I think it's right on the vehicle itself. Yeah, let's try it out. What the hell? NPC vehicle base. I'm going to put it on these barrels. I'm going all the way, right? I'm going to use this whatever, even if I scale it back later. So might as well set stuff. It's also used for effect burns, so when you get set on fire, I don't want that to be all ridiculous, so, or yet, at least, not in the same way, so I'd probably want a different effect for that. It's pretty easy to just duplicate an effect and modify it a little bit if you need it, so. Okay, let's save all. Save all. Hey, there's another project open. I did that on purpose. We'll get into that later. Okay, I think it worked. It's definitely got some more stuff flying out of it, which is great. Yeah, look at that. Okay, a little slow motion action. Why is it even worth doing if you can't do it way too much, right? That's totally not true, but often this sort of game, it is. So hey, more fire, more awesome. Again, there's some other reason my frame rate is like garbage right now. It is not the effects, I promise you. Let's do that with the oops. Spawn and fuel dump. Let's mount. Let's get some multi-rockets on there. Looks like I didn't hook it to those. That's alright. That looked red, and I'm looking forward to hooking those up later. I'm going to do that right now real quick. Fuel and fuel. What do we got? Fuel dump. There it is. Flying fire loop. That's what we want. All right. Super slow load. Really, guys? Wow. Okay. Something is. It's probably because I have another editor open. Honestly, we'll get to that in a sec. It's just can be a little difficult if you want to. Here, I'm gonna take this and shut this down for now. This is like my display of all the different asset bundles that I've downloaded, and I'll get to that in a little while. But help the frame rate a tiny bit, but something's weird. You guys get to watch a really low frame rate game. How cool is that? So what I've been doing lately is I've been trying to rework how health has been generated. So I was talking to Jim Shepard, Dungeon Man's. He had sort of a technique for setting up enemies and their relative health, and it sort of involves working off of a standard. So. And it's good. I mean, usually what I do is something similar, but it's a little more manual. So, like, if I want to do it, I'll take that weapon data, and you know, there it is with the raw data. But what I'll do is I will look at this and I'll adjust the numbers so that I get a ramp that I want, right? So I'll look at a damage per attack. I'll kind of estimate what the DPS is, and what a typical weapon will do at varying levels. And then I'll like compare these numbers, and you can graph. Excel lets you graph based on various factors, and you can make the low end of the band green and the high end red, or vice versa, or whatever. So that we'll get into this some other time, but basically this is how I like to work. So Jim was suggesting a way that he'd been working with and been happy with, and so I'm playing around with that, and that is taking this, which is, you know, imagine there's just a set number of levels from 1 to 20, and that could be, you know, 50 or 100 or however many levels I want. Have a predicted arc in terms of the default health and damage that things do, and then you know, by your various enemy definitions, you can define like how that's scaled. So if it's a glass cannon, it's going to be like, maybe it's going to be half health of the current level band, but double damage, you know, that sort of stuff. So if you know what standard, and I'm also doing this for player health and player damage as well. So and this is a lot harder than it sounds, because in my case, I don't just have one place where the health lives. It's in a lot of cases it's buried into the vehicles stuff. So, all right. So back to making things explode, which is always entertaining. All right. Let me just spawn that and fuel dump, just so I can feel good about having done that, and then I can get on with my life. Let's mount some lasers, really powerful lasers, on all sides. These are really old. Okay, well, oh, it scaled them down, but okay, so we'll see. Since these barrels are scaled, then things attached to them, the effects that are attached to them, are also scaled down, so everything was smaller. So yeah, I'll play with that and figure out exactly. Maybe I'll attach a different type, just a different copy of the effect that's scaled up, or come up with some other way. Alright. -2 to Wild Dogs faction. Sorry, Iron Seth. Alright. Let's get back out. Alright. Hey, there's the world. Okay, so for the Desert Badlands, I am generating some things, and this is for you, Martin. So Martin is a friend of ours that's helping us with some of the art, and I told him today I was actually going to save the past broadcast. Last week, I didn't hit the switch, which doesn't default to on, to save the broadcast, where I was talking about how I laid out all the various layers of terrain, right? And I did it for your benefit, but I also did it for his benefit. I'm gonna have to do that again, but in this case, hopefully he's gonna get some good info out of this, just to see what sort of mad science I got going on there. So, all right. Let's look around at some of that stuff and talk about what I'm talking about. So when I generate, this is a Combat Desert Badlands. This is here in the upper right. This is a specific type of level, so it doesn't have any outposts in it. It's generally something you load up when you're doing an encounter, right? So if you get ambushed, you might be thrown into a map like this. This one is apparently called the Baleful Domain. I want to mount some. What do I want to mount? Cannons. Level 4 cannons. There we go. It takes some ordnance, but I can always cheat and give myself lots of that. Well, they do have a longer cooldown. Alright, so I'm looking for some stuff that's in the world here. So here's one of them. This little shack here. I'm gonna pause the game and go into the regular game view. Oh, there's an enemy. Where'd I go? Here we are. So this little shack is a single tile, and it's this whole thing, which is this spot here, where which is called a site. This is where a road will go to, and this house, shack, this pile of dirt with the weirdo rock sticking out of it. This stuff is all part of a pre-built piece. So let me go find something else that's a. And that shack, Jesus, that shack is from like, I swear, 2012 or something. Unity put out some models when they were sort of just getting the asset store going, to try and get people going. And so they're not made well. Like, you download it, and they're deprecated now, right? So you can't even download it unless you already own it. But when you download it, it just puts all the stuff right in the root of your directory. Not even in inside models or textures or anything. It just sort of dumps it. And it was all sort of like desert shanty stuff. And so I've kind of kept it around, even though I really should switch to some other stuff. Plus, I got to make this into a destroyable object. This piece here, this is another one of those pre-placed buildable blocks that get put down as a part of world generation as well. And this is, again, like this barrel is set up to go here. Sometimes there's a crate there. There's some tires and a fence and all that. Now this is non-interactive. I really need to make it interactive. My world needs some interactivity to it, some more interactivity, especially out here in the desert. There's another one. Oil tank, right? So those are cool. I actually like the feel of this. Something bulky. Oh, this is what I was looking for. So we have like these windmills, and these chunks of fence and stuff like that. These are all made as oh, here's the water tower. The water tower is one of the ones I really wanted to mess with. And it had a crate and stuff around it, and a road goes up to it. So these are all pre-built chunks that I lay down. And I'll show you how that works for cities. But for the desert, let's go over there. And we want to open a scene. All right, Pat, you remember where scenes are? You know what a scene is? Totally forgot? Okay, workspace. There we go. Workspaces. Let's check out Patchwork. I can't remember whether it's probably an Outpost work. So this is an example of one of the maps where I build these things. And this is probably patch over Watchtower. So instead of the close-up one that you got that we were just looking at, these are the overworld versions of it. So they're supposed to look distinctively smaller, right? Everything in the overworld is about half size, with the exception of the cities, which are sort of cartoony abstractions of themselves. So here's the Citadel. This is a whole bunch of stuff. So if I look at this patch wall city template, this is the whole thing with the decal under it and everything. It's actually made of like 8 hojillion parts. So I've got some tile definitions, and what that does is anything with a tile on it, tile over a ground block. This will flatten the land underneath, but it'll place down this entire 3x3 object all in all as part of a what do I call it? Sector, zone? I can't remember. You'll see region. That's what it's called. And this is actually a patch. So in desert regions, I was talking about Voronoi regions, which are blobs, various ones that are filled with rough terrain or clear terrain or mountains. Some of these regions can hold some of these patches if they can fit. And in this case, this is a Citadel, and the Citadel is made of, this is actually not a prefab itself. Everything that's blue is a prefab, but the thing at the top is a patch, and you'll see how patches get pulled in a second. But if you look at this wall city, this is made of like a zillion like parts, like various like wall segments and stuff, and that I got from a like a Wasteland asset pack. And then there's like a fairly low poly city asset pack. Or if you look into it, it's like, okay, each one of these is an individual floor. And so obviously this is not going to run the best, but, you know, I cull it out when it's not in scene, and so far it's been all right. But it doesn't help when Jim wants to download, update the project, and it takes like 100 years for him to sync up, because there's just a lot of individual models and things like that out there, and a lot of assets for him to pull down. So for example, I was talking to Martin about taking this, and I baked it into a single. Where is this? I think it probably is in here. Yeah, there it is. I use a tool called Mesh Baker, which is a pretty good one. And I collapsed it all into a single mesh. So I've done this already for a whole bunch of stuff. For the city, you know, all the city blocks, those are all collapsed into a single thing. It's a good tool, actually, a Mesh Baker. And it was like $10 when I got it. Now it's like $30. So obviously it's become more useful and feature-rich. But that and Master Audio, those are products I got for $10. And as they expanded over time, I got the benefit of all the work they did, even though the price increased, which is cool. So anyway, the other thing I was able to do when I baked this out was I said I could then re-export an FBX to a FBX file so that he could import it into a 3D package and make me a new Citadel that is actually modern and looks like that sort of combination of Blade Runner high tech and maybe soulless apartment blocks, you know, like you might see in Beijing or you know, really, you know, various places where there's just a lot of these sort of you know, vertical residences all packed together. So all right, so when I want to put that down, right, I've got this whole thing. It's patch wall city template. Now I could turn this into a prefab and then poop it all down, but poop it all down in a single thing and load it just like I was loading a barrel or something like that. I could do that. It doesn't give me the flexibility of things I want. First of all, I want these items that be gameplay relevant. I want them to cooperate with the rest of the procedural generation stuff. And if I want to swap parts out when I'm putting them down, like you know, if I put a marker down here and I say, well, I might want this building or a different building, you know, imagine that I've set that up this way, and maybe that's something Martin can do for me. But for now, I'll be happy with just a straight up Citadel that looks really sweet and modern, and you know, like I said, because these are the bastions of civilization in this world. You know, the old cities are all sort of like you know, got this sort of Akira leaning building, you know, parts of stuff going on. And again, these are deliberately cartoony. This is a 4x4 grid. This is a large city, and it's like a 64 by 64 city. It's huge. I could do 100 by 100, but going around a 100 by 100 city is not actually that cool. It's just too big to find anything. I have updated objective pointers now. Maybe that would help, but it's not something I plan on using it nearly as much. Even if I can. So here's a tool I use to pull down the wall city stuff, and that is my own stuff. Patch Editor. Look at that. Patch Editor is just a tool that I made. Patch wall city. Where is it? Oh. I want overworld patches, because this walled city is only in the overworld. So there's a separate file that holds the overworld stuff. So what I do is I like drag this in. I can import all the stuff from it. So if I create a new patch, for example, I can drag this in, hit import. And I've placed everything in there, but it'll suck it all in. It'll figure out what tiles are being used. So in this case, there's a whole bunch of overworld ground blocks. If I click on each one of these, I guess I don't actually have it showing the widgets for this right now, but gizmos. There we are. Yeah, so there's a gizmo. This is just turning on some of the markup that I do when I generate these. So this is a tile over road. This is another tile. So I lay this out so that it's actually a 3x4 block. This is always a road, and this is both a road and the location of the actual entrance to this citadel. So it's a special type of entity that puts the text over the scene, so it says, "Hey, this is Dodge City," right? Is the walled city dynamic? I don't know when you asked that. I got no timestamp, but imagine you did a little bit ago, and you've probably seen from now. This particular one is not dynamic, but I will show you things that are dynamic. And in fact, let's go to that now. I'm not going to save any of this. Let us go to Outpost work instead. There we go. All right. So this is the Outpost stuff. So what I was showing you before is where the this windmill was, right? So this is a patch. Where is it? POI 5. So in the desert, POI, we have a patch that is a windmill and a tile. So there's this tile here that is these always snap to whatever integer coordinate they're at. So it's always got a rough spot here, which is kind of random, right? I mean, it's like this can be rotated in any of 4 directions when it's placed, but there's always a road entrance and the rough tile in a very arbitrary shape. So I got that one. I was thinking I wanted some stuff to be just a little more vertical, and I I don't really know like what scale I'm working at right now. The cars are always 2 to 3. So for cars, all bets are off, right? So cars have a consistent scale that are probably, I don't know, 3 times the size of 3 times the size of the buildings, right? So if I go into a city, I can pull my car up. It's almost the length of like a house. I guess, obviously maybe that's 4 or 5 times. I don't know. But it's the size of a sort of a tight, like a row house sort of building structure. So buildings sort of have their own scale, and then that I'd like to be consistent. And vehicles have their own scale, which I'd like to be consistent. So gameplay items are generally larger than just background items like this that are specifically ones that are non-interactive. So what do I got? I got this watchtower, which is kind of blah, and isn't even really that watchtowery. We got characters that are probably like this big that are supposed to be climbing up this ladder and sitting in here. And again, it's deliberately not realistic, but it's almost over the top. And then we've got a ladder here that's much bigger that these things are going to work with. So I'm going to do a couple things first. I'm going to look at this prefab. Prefab. This is a prefab asset. Building water tower. Let me make sure I'm looking at the right thing here. Building water tower. All right, yes, so an entity uses the building water tower, BLDG water tower, uses the prefab building water tower, as does the patch generator. I just wanted to be sure, because sometimes it doesn't match. Okay. And look at this. These patches are all kind of crammed together, so it's hard for me to see the edges. So I'm just gonna move one of these out. Just so I can work on it. Okay, so the first thing I want to do, I'm going to open this prefab. Just going to move it to the square so I can see what the edges of the square are. I want to make this water tower just a hair bigger. Just kind of want things to be bigger in this game, so I'm just going to do it. Screw it. The ladder goes a little into the neighboring cell, but whatever. It's no big deal. Especially if I place it. You know, when I place these down, and if I define this as an open space, then it won't be crammed against a wall ever. There's always going to be something playable over there. So I'm just gonna make that a little bigger. So there's the water tower. It's a little bigger now. And let's bring over that watchtower too. Bringing over these tiles too because I'm using them to kind of line things up and get a sense of size. But they're not actually part of the road tests. Yeah, these are just here for reference, I think. Famous last words. Yeah, road tests. So it's all good. Over here. I don't really need them right now. So let's make this guard tower a little better. You know, I got all this funky stuff in here, a little pile of tires and all that, which makes me feel like cool. Like I kit bashed this whole thing together, right? Like this is made of like shanty wall parts and objects and rando garbage. It's not interactive right now. I'm not going to make it interactive today, but I just want to make this this guard tower a little bigger. Oh, jeez. And for me to do that, I'd probably want to put a guard tower. I just made an just a blank entity. This is, you can just use blank entities, and they are just a separate like location and scale and rotation, and you can put things under them. And that's just a good technique because if I want to scale all these things up at once relative to each other, best thing to do is put them in there and put them into an empty object and scale them up. And you can always move them out and then get rid of the empty object if you want. But in this case, I just really want this guard tower just to not be such wuss town. I mean, it's just terrible. So I've got, oh, hi Doof. All right. We have another cat arrived. Give me a sec here. Oh. Cat break. This is Marshall. We call him Doof. And I'm going to use the nuclear option here. He usually doesn't come up here. Like, he's all about my wife and follows her around all the time. Whereas Sam, the guy you saw before, was the guy that always follows me around. So I got this ball that I kickstarted yesterday. Well, I kickstarted earlier in the month, early in the year, but it came out today. It arrived today from like the slow boat from China. Like literally, it took like 3 weeks for them to ship. And I turn this on, and it's one of these things where it'll sense if the dog, in a lot of cases, or cat, is playing with it. So it'll just kind of whirl around on its own, and that'll keep them distracted so they can have fun and just wander around and not want lap, which is cool. But hey, done with the cat break. All right, so this is all a prefab. This isn't a patch, but I'm just making this stuff bigger just to kind of get things feeling a little less shrimpy. I don't know. It's just really been things have felt really small to me, so it's been bothering me. Let's see. Yeah, they're wondering what's going on with that ball. Hey, Sam. Yeah, there it goes, right along the bookcase. So that works. That's a handy tool then. They don't play with it a lot, but it distracts the hell out of them. All right. So let me go back. Check this out. All right, that tower is bigger. It at least isn't quite so comically small compared to this water tower. We'll see how this goes. In the end, I've got a watchtower that is interactive that I use for objective completion. I'd like all of these watchtowers to be interactive or destructible, at least destructible, right? So at the very minimum, if you damage them enough, they're going to explode and break into parts. Otherwise, they might have some radar on them, and so they'll put out radar pulses and call enemies over to you if they see you. So I'm going to, let's see. Inside this, this is the patch with the watchtower. What I'm going to do is I'm going to say this is rough terrain around. Now I'm just going to make it clear terrain. Clearly, I have a plan here. Nice. Road, rough blank. All right. Over rough. Okay, so this is a prefab that I lay out. Was the ball. I'm looking for just tile over, ground. So I'm just going to put one of those in here to clear a spot. Oops, I want it on this guy. Where the hell did I put it? Okay, we got water tower, we got windmill. There's the guard tower, that's what I want. It's POI 3. So I'm going to move that over here. And somewhere in here I have markers for putting things down, which clearly I am awesome enough to not remember where I did it. Here they are. Tile over ground. So this is an example of something that's scalable. This is the corner of a wall. So this whole thing is put on the corners of walls, and then this wall is like a repeating element that can be stretched long distances or short, and it'll just tile basically at the length of its definition. But you can make it twice as long as it is. You can make it a quarter as long as it is, and it'll pick a chunk of that or however. So what I was looking for was, since Outpost wall corner. Now the way those are set up is they have. There it is. Now I remember. Great. So these tiles have a little bit of extra information to them. They have a socket type. So if I put ground here, I can say this is a place where loot will go, and it will always put a crate there. If I click this other tile right here, there it is. That one has a hazard on it. So right now hazards are a pretty limited set. It's pretty much just barrels. So these corners always either have a barrel or a piece of loot on it. I'm not a huge fan of that. It's obviously a little one note. Plus, it sucks to like want to go pick up the loot, and you've got to go buy a go away ball to go grab that. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make another one of these corners. I'm going to move it over here. Oh, and let's swap out some shit here. So, all right, got the tiles. I'm going to start with not having anything at these. So no hazard, no loot. Select this prefab. So I'm going to say Outpost wall corner alt. That is going to be, the patch is going to be called Outpost wall corner alt. And we're gonna mix up these fences a little bit. So again, these are all entities. This is Outpost wall 1. This is Outpost wall 2. So I'm just gonna at least start by putting these at different angles than I originally had. So I'm gonna swap this around. That's 9. Let's move this one over here. Hey, you. This entity here, and let's move this over here. So nothing really big. Let's see. Do we have anything that's interesting? Okay, let's get rid of this. We'll put some sort of cargo container in there. And let's see. Okay, we've got our wall here, and then let's see. We've got this guardhouse. Let's not use the guardhouse. Select prefab asset. Let's use the guard tower that I just put down. So there's the guard tower. Guardhouse goes. Sorry, guardhouse. So now we have at least some sort of different corner to put down on here. And the way I am going to do that, I'm just going to save the placement of this just so that in case I munge something up here. All right, I'm going to add a new patch, and that is, so I just hit add, and then I set it up so I can just drag this patch, the parent of everything, into this, and hit import. It goes through, it detects all the tiles that are being used, and all the tiles that are being used, and all the entities, and it figures out where those entities should go, figures out the position, rotation if they're non-standard, and let me make sure everything is checked out, otherwise it's going to be angry at me when I try to save. Now it's okay. So we save this, This thread thing just started with one of the new versions of Unity. I haven't touched this tool in like 2 years, so go figure. Thanks, Unity. Sometimes you can be a little baffling. But, alright, look at that. Okay, so we got a new Outpost. Did I make any useful changes to these? Oh, here, let's say, I'm just going to make this particular one have a, this one's going to have some loot on it. This one I'm going to take the loot off. It's got a loot and a hazard. Sure, whatever. This one's got a loot, no hazard, whatever. It's all good. I'm going to randomize that at some point, so it'll be like a chance of loot. Alright, so I just created this patch. Oops, pointing at the wrong screen. I just created this patch Outpost Wall Corner Alt. And then I'm also, just for completeness, going to refresh the other Outpost Wall Corner, the other patch, because I touched it a little bit here. Wall Corner. There it is. Patch Outpost Wall Corner. Let's grab this one, import it. I'm going to save just to be safe here. And then did I touch? I moved this, but I didn't actually add anything. Oh, I put some ground in here. So what the hell? I'm gonna make this watchtower have some loot next to it. Why not? Just to have some loot. More loot. More loot is good. I'm gonna have to make not so much loot, so it's gonna end up being a % chance. But this is, I gotta rename it because this is starting to drive me insane. But POI 3, Point of Interest 3, is this patch. I'm gonna drag it in here. You can import it. You see here it's got a new ground, and it's defined the socket. So I could have entered this by hand if I wanted to, but who the hell wants to do that, right? So I'm able to edit this in the editor, and now it's got loot. So let's check this thing out. I'm going to close this tool. And let's find a corner. Outpost Wall Corner. Here we are. Let's see. We have Outpost Wall Corner. What I'm looking for is how the patches are used. Outpost Wall. And I'm searching for things all the time because there's so much data in here. I'm always looking for stuff. Here it is. So when we're generating an outpost, we actually put walls all the way around the edges. And it will pick a wall patch, which is patch outpost wall. Look at that quick, which I was showing you before, where it just grabs a chunk of it. So this is patch outpost wall. It has a bunch of information inside this patch that is a little more rich. It's an 11 by 1 string of stuff. But if you mark it as scalable, horizontally or vertically, it will, you know, since it's set to horizontally scale, and horizontal is this left-right axis right here. It will allow. It'll actually allows you to be whatever size you want within that scale. And then if you want, you can say, well, you can scale it all you want, but the ones on the end are important. Then I can set the left and right margins to be that, and then so the center would scale, and then these two creases are always consistent. So that's been handy when I've been doing roads, particularly. I don't know, various areas. Even these fences, you know, when I created those fences, you see those little chunks of fences around. This is a patch that's set up the same way, where it is... Oh, no, it's not. I totally lied about that. There's some chunk of... Yeah, here's a chunk of fence around here, and this is a patch that's set up that way, where the center can be any size you want, but you can scale it horizontally and vertically, and the margins, you know, if I want to only allow it to be scaled in any direction and not save the edges, I can do that. But in this case, I want the edges to always be stuff, and then right here in the center is always always blank. And so that can be any size. 4x3 patch. So let's actually like get some things in the game, right? This is a little dull. All right, so patch outpost wall. All right, so I'm just gonna def table outpost wall table. Corner table. Remember, we made a separate corner. Well, I'm gonna create a table here. So there's a 50% chance of using this corner. Let's give it a chance of 10, and then outpost wall corner alt. I'm gonna give it 10 also. And when it goes to look for what patch to use when it hits a corner, it's gonna use this table instead. And it should pick one of those at random. I mean, and I can make that weighted so it's more likely to do the main one or whatever, just by adjusting these weighted values for randomness. All right. Let's get the hell out of outpost work and back into the world of the outpost. Look at that shiz. All right, here we are on the outpost map. Fire that sucker up. Oh, look at that. Object reference not set to instance of object. Nice. Nice. All right, looks like I gotta go back and check out what I did with that. Outpost work. I might not have set that patch properly. Let's see what I did wrong. Could be anything. Serves me right for using something I haven't used in a while. Close corner alt. So this is what it was complaining about. It was trying to draw with it was trying to set up the map, and it went into generation, and it wanted to place features. So place features is a very specific thing that just goes in places like custom stuff that a map might want. So a lot of it's just like general like terrain and blockers and rough areas and clear areas and mountains and all that stuff. Place features actually goes down in the terrain, and it says, okay, draw walls is on. So we're literally going to use the we are literally going to draw 4 walls with corners on each end, rotated at whatever size we want. So right here I'm doing a random value to figure out how wide that should be, how much from the edges of the map they should be, and that can be randomized within a certain tolerance. And then I lay down inside each of those sections a wall, big long wall, that scalable patch that I was telling you about, and corner patches at each spot. So this was where it was bitching at me. It said that I had passed it a patch info that was garbage. So let's debug it. Hey, debugging. I'm actually debugging on stream. This is kind of weird. Rip. Rip indeed. Alright, gonna hit play. Oh, yeah. I'm not gonna hit play because it's gonna... This is not a playable map, so it's gonna sit here and do nothing. Yeah. Imagine that. It's looking for, like, vehicles and shit, and it's not gonna find it because I'm not on the right map. Okay, let's make sure that this got saved out properly before I go back to the other map. It looks fine, honestly. I'm gonna go look at the patch info itself. So those are the overworld patches. And Outpost wall corner, alt. See if there's anything missing from this patch. Doesn't have a pretty name, whatever. Wall. Overwrite. It shouldn't be scaling vertically or horizontally. It's got a bunch of tiles that clear the way, and it's a slightly different arrangement of entities that act as the boundaries to this particular tile. So everything looks okay. I think what happened is I hadn't really thought about it. I figured that loading from a table would be no problem. I don't recall what I do with that value before I evaluate it, so that's probably what I did wrong here. Desert Outpost. All right. Just to be sure, let's load the Desert Outpost. All right. Let's get that debugging again. Should just hit debug and play. Start, baby. All right, so exception here. Let's go up the call stack. It's trying to place features, and hey, look at this. Yeah, it was trying to get a patch info from wall patch corner. Well, that's no good because it wanted to. It wasn't even evaluating it in case it was a table. In fact, I'll look at get patch info. I don't think I've ever passed a patch get patch info a table before. Yeah. So in this case, it isn't even trying to resolve it. So let's do this. Yeah. Oop. All right. We can fix this. High tech. System dot get thing recursive. Actually, I can't remember what just gets the damn. Oh, yeah. Try table entry. Yeah, I don't need to do this junk. Really get patched info just needs to be tolerant of using tables. So we just want to make sure that patch ID is not null or empty. Try table entry. We'll see if this is a system.try table entry. There it is. Okay, how this works is it just says, instead of saying, all right, let's look for something that is exactly this name, it's going to check, and if it happens to find something under it, it will return one of the values. So it's basically going to make it behave well with this table here. So no big deal. Get patch info. Let's try to not rip this time. Rip part 2. Damn, son. It's got this same damn problem. All right. Nice. All right. Attach Unity and play. Oops. It's already playing. Dash Unity play. Let's try this again. Let's catch it. There we go. Wall patch corner. Look at that. It gets to Outpost wall corner table, which is this. This is what I want, right? Let's go in. We're going in. All right. Patch ID. Oh. Yeah. Yeah, this is typical game developer clown shoes. I made a test key, and then I'm supposed to be testing that. So... the patch ID, possible patch ID. Great. That's a little clearer. All right. All right. This is what we actually wanted, and so no more clown shoes. And hooray for using systems I wrote a year plus ago. You know, everything's always getting better, right? Okay. So let's do free look. All right. I can wander around, see what's going on. So we should see, hey, there's one with the old style corner. Now, I know I did something wrong right now. And that is that I cached the result of the patch when I laid it out. So it picked one of them. So I'm either all going to be all watchtowers or all the other type. So let's fix that. No big deal. We're just going to, every corner we're going to draw a new thing out of the group here. So, and so that'll be randomized each time. Let's try this again. That's all right. I knew I was going to have bugs, right? Every dev stream in the universe has bugs. That is totally true. And yeah, I'm okay with that, right? It's all new territory for me. Hey, free look. Sometimes I'm like really happy. I'm like, oh, geez, that stuff I wrote a while ago is pretty sweet. Sweet, you know? Okay, so this is the old style one here, and on this corner, hey, we got the other kind. I didn't get the loot there. I think I actually randomized it. There is the watchtower there. I gotta make those destroyable, man. They're just dying to be wrecked, right? Like I gotta be blowing this shit up and with rockets and all that. So you see here with the tiling that every so often you'll see this shipping container, and so if I want to make like a even less repeating patterns, I can make this 24 long. I can make it 50 long if I want, and the patch system will handle that, which is great. Pretty happy with that. The other thing I can do is I can make it have random stuff in it. So. In fact, I think I'm going to do that. What time is it? It's 2:30. I'm still going. This is kind of fun. All right. Okay, let's get out of free look. Bank. Mount laser 7. I'm lazy, so I'm going to blast my way through here. Get lost. Yeah. There we go. Bam. All right. I got to make those destructions better too. Destructions. Whatever was messing with the frame rate, it seems to be a little better now. It's not great, but it's a little better. sometimes when you have a particular thing up in the inspector, like for example, I'll just give you an example here. When you use fancy pants tools, they don't always do you favors, right? So I'm using this master audio system. So it's got this whole like all this information about all the sounds that are played, and it actually like tracks it in real time in the inspector. And if I happen to be working on that and then I run the game, it's like, oh god, what happened to the game? It's making me so sad. And it turns out that I was clicking that thing, and now it's back to normal. So it could have just been something like that, just some editor comedy. There's the Watchtower. I'm totally looking forward to like Shepard's working on the slow-mo rockets. The rockets coming out of that Watchtower are going to take 2 turns to get to you, so you can like dodge them, and then we can just make them just fire every damn turn. So you got to like keep moving, right? You can't just sit here and be like, I'm just going to shoot this 6 times and stand still and not worry. That's not gameplay, right? So you see this towers. So one thing I did add was every time you see a Watchtower on the screen, it will add it to a list of possible things it can point to. So now it's pointing to the Watchtower to the north of me. If I move around this map, you see it's behind me now, and it will always point me to the closest one that I have seen. So if you haven't discovered them yet, it won't tell you where the Watchtowers are, but once you do see them, it'll guide you to them. And maybe I'll even change it like Diablo did, like when there were two enemy, you had to kill all the enemies in the cave, and when there were 2 left, they're like, well, that sucks if it's lost in some corner, so we're always going to point you to it. I might do that. For now, it's been pretty good because if you're scouring the whole map, you just look for the black areas on a map that you haven't discovered yet. And this is all uncovered right now because I typed free look, so that's how that works. And by the way, this is the larger Watchtower, and it looks cooler. I mean, it's just nice to have stuff that just sticks out more and punches out. And what I might do is actually turn this into a 2x2 or a 3x3 tile so that there's fence around it. There's something to destroy in the middle, and it's got some actual beef to it. Like it's like a little placement, and I can use the patch system for that. Right, it's great for that. So let's see where we're at. 233. All right. So I'm gonna do something a little more ballsy. Not particularly ballsy, but it's actually been something that's bothered me. Is that when I lay out this wall, it's kind of bland because it's straight as a rail, right? There's nothing going on to keep you, nothing going on in there to make it seem interesting. Like you got rough parts, right, or things that are pushed up against that wall. So I'm going to see what happens. Let's see what happens. I'm going to make a copy of this just because I don't really want to ruin it right now, the one that exists right now, because it works great. But I'm going to try messing with this a little bit. So I'm going to make a new wall section. Outpost wall alt. Let's go with the same theme, right? Outpost wall alt. And this one's going to have some depth to it. So instead of being 11 by 1, this is going to have some additional garbage attached to it. Well, not garbage. Well, actually, literally garbage attached to it. So I guess I was right the first time. Awesome. So we got car wall. Let's get another car wall in here. I'm going to put the cars out here. Let's... Do I want to put it out? I don't know. I don't know whether I want the inside, outside, or both set up. Let's be super ballsy and put some inside, some outside. And the reason I call that ballsy is like this code that draws the walls is something I just pooped out in 20 minutes. I didn't really put a lot of thought into the width of these patches. But hey, maybe it will just magically work, and everything's gonna be amazing because it's stream. It's all cool. let's push these cars against this edge a little bit. I don't want them to stick. They still need to fill that tile, right? Because if you hit it, it's still gonna collide. So as much as I'd like to put it like here, you know, halfway between the tiles, I can kind of nudge it over, but I don't want it to look like that tile's empty. So it's gonna kind of go with something like this. And we got our shipping containers. Let's make another one of those. And hey, it's kind of shoved up against the edge here. I'm going to swap these out. Okay. Let's get these tiles. Another one of these tiles. So this is going to be a rough tile. Let's not do rough. So rough is always going to look like rocks, and I guess I don't have this terrain set up, but the rough's always going to look like rocks, which is cool under cars and stuff like that. In fact, I can do one of these. I'm not a big fan of these dirt piles. They don't really they don't read very well. People run into them by accident. They're good filler. Filler, waka waka, landfill. I made a joke. Yeah, whatever. So, close this down, and I'm going to put this rubble mound in here in the wall alt somewhere to make it stick out. Oh, jeez. Okay, let's put it there. So yeah, we're boldly going here. I don't really know what's going to happen, but let's find out. So I got rock. So every time I put one of these down, I want to always have a tile under it. Otherwise, it won't clear the way under it. So if there's already an obstruction there, it won't clear things out, and roads can run right through things. So tiles are always something that need to be placed along with an object, typically, especially if it's an obstruction. In some cases, maybe that's not necessary, but at least the way the system is right now, that's how that works. All right. Yeah, let's flip one of these around, because, you know, why wouldn't you want shelter on the other side? I don't know. Okay, that's dumb, but why not? The guards need a place to kind of rest, right? Let's get rid of these tires. I'm gonna flip this around. I've got a little bit of a normal problem with these walls. When they're rotated a certain way, the backs tend to look black. I gotta figure that out. And I do that not during this stream, but in this case, I'm going to put this shelter like that, and then I got vehicles. Is there any other trash or anything I can put in there? There's this stupid rubble mound. I just wanted to put something out there that hey, pickups. There it is. Car wall 1. All right. I'm going to make a copy of that. Bring that over. Okay, we're going to make a car pile here. Apparently floating in the air, because that's awesome. The answer being no, we won't be making it floating in the air. It's going to be right there. Oh, the ball's going again. Cat ball. Good to keep him occupied. It also summons them back, so maybe that's not always the best thing, but welcome to my life. All right, let's get the trucks and the vans here. Now, another reason I don't want this sticking way over here is because if this particular part of the wall gets destroyed, it's going to be empty, and yet this will still be here, right? So if this is like way sticking into here, then again, that would be another reason that would be a fail. So put that there. Sure. All right. So we got like a patch. It's got a lot more shiz in it. Let's yeah, this is good. This is good. All right. Let's bring open the patch editor. Load the overworld patches. I'm gonna add a new patch. Imports, patch wall out. So wall again. I never use the pretty name for a patch because it doesn't live past generation. But there it is. In case I have an error message or some other reason why I want to have a name, there's a spot for it. All right, so we got stuff in this, and I have no idea what's going to happen if I just spawn it. So let's. Here we are. We now have an 11x3 patch instead of an 11x1. There's a few things sticking in either side. And let us go to the map. Lurking. What, the ball? Cats? Oh, yep. There's Sam. Hey, Sam. All right. All right, so here I've created this new outpost wall. This time I'm not going to go with a table, because I don't actually know how it's going to place. I'll probably, if everything becomes 11x3, that's great, honestly. I'm looking for the variance anyway. There's no reason to randomize that. So we got patch outpost wall, alt. Here's just the XML that gets saved out. XML, God, I feel like I'm in the 90s or something. Early 2000s? I don't know. I haven't used XML except for this, and it was just the first data format that I learned to save out, so I wasn't using JSON or anything. So let's use patch outpost wall alt. Save it out. And if I just run this, it might just work, but I probably have to offset it, north or south or in or out to match the profile I've created here. Oh, Jim is lurking. Jim is lurking. He's going to stay in chat but not respond to words. Yes. I have worked on other games before this. Thanks for asking. Yeah, I've been around for 26 years or something. I'm really old. See, you got the gray temples here going on. So, I get to show off stuff. So over here, move the camera. What do we got? We got this is the first full game I worked on. It's a terrible, terrible shooter. So there's that. Heretic 2 was my favorite game to work on. So I've been making PC games for a long time. And you can always go to my website to find out other stuff. Hey, Sam. Sam's still chasing the ball. I don't know why I showed Cyclones. I showed the worst, one of the worst. Necrodome was probably the worst game I worked on. And Heretic 2 was my favorite game to have worked on. So, yeah, anyway, I've been around a long time. And, whatever, talking to old fogies. Sometimes we have something new to offer. And actually being able to go out and make my own thing. So look at this. We got a wall, and it's got crap sticking out of it. It looks less like Dulltown. That's great. I don't know why let's free look here and see how this is laid out, because okay, yeah. So clearly, I'm not clearing the decks for this. It needs to be just moved over slightly. So the wall is here. So one thing I was doing is I was making sure that there was some clear space on either side of the wall, so you can always go around it. And so the mountains would go up along. Are you serious? Certus. All right. You seriously have played Cyclones? Like that is a thing that you played? Because you're one of... I don't think it's sold that bad. I mean, like back in the 90s, it was like pretty cool to sell, I don't know, 50,000 copies or something like that. That was like, hey, all right, because the game cost like 300,000 to make or something. But yeah, it was the first full game I worked on, and like the lead would kind of flaked out, so like I didn't even know what like a bug list looked like, and suddenly I was like the lead, and I had to like. Bugs came in every day from SSI, Strategic Simulations, and they faxed us a full bug list. Like the fax machine would have all these sheets of paper coming out every day, and I didn't know who was supposed to take care of that. At some point, somebody was just like, "Why aren't you dealing with all these bugs?" And I'm like, "Bug reports? What are those?" So yeah, It's been a while. Luckily, things are done a little better than they were back then. And that game was on floppy as well as CD. That was the only game I ever worked on that was full game I worked on that was floppy. Anyway, yeah, old stories, old dog stories. I got tons of them. Jim does too, but I got more of them. So so what do? You just pile up years. All right, so we got something that's okay, not super awesome. I'll just need to position that properly. So what we do is we're defining the X and Y coordinates for the very edge of the map, right? So at the very beginning, we just say, all right, I got dibs on everything from min XY to max XY. Keep that completely clear. I'm going to draw my box around that using those offsets. And we'll just go with that. So basically, I was accomplishing that by, after reserving it, I would subtract 2. What are those yellow triangles at the bottom? Yellow triangles at the bottom of... Oh, here in the lower right? Is that what you're asking? Have ice? Please have ice. 1, 2, 3. All right. Yeah, I've been getting a lot of warnings. There's like a complaint that there's a leak somewhere, memory leak. And it's like a bane of all programmers, right? There's the idea that there's something out there allocating memory and then not properly cleaning it up. So if a game has a leak, basically it just constantly uses more and more memory until the game just, the computer like explodes, right? And sometimes it's huge, right? That the computer runs out of memory in a couple minutes, and sometimes it's like tiny amounts, right? And so the computer might, if left unattended, eventually just bog down the whole machine. And so there's things called soak tests where the game will just be left up to run for days or weeks, just to see if like later on there's there's like a bunch of memory that wasn't there. Hey, the thing took X number of megs, but now it takes 50% more after 2 days. Well, obviously you got a leak in there somewhere. A game shouldn't do that. Consoles obviously are less tolerant to leaks because they have a fixed amount of memory. PCs are a little more loosey-goosey, right? If you want to allocate way too much memory, the PC will kind of creep along and still work, just worse and worse until it eventually explodes. But consoles will just basically just crash if you run out of memory. So anyway, the point is there's some debug stack leak thing that Unity's been complaining about, and it suggests you have a leak. Like, it says you probably have a leak, and I'm not even running my editor right now, right? Like, I got the editor's open. I don't. The game isn't running, so I don't even know what could be leaking. That's mine. So if you go to the Unity forums, it says, you look this up. There's all sorts of complaints about this stack leak, and some people say it's the particle system. Some people say it's something else. In this case, it's I don't know. It's just something weird that's leaking. I don't know what it is. I'd like to figure it out. And I don't know if I'd be more happy if it's my fault or their fault. If it's my fault, I gotta fix it. Okay, sure, I can do that. But on the upside, I can do something about that. If it's their fault, then you just cross your fingers and you're like, well, maybe in the next version of Unity it'll get fixed. And I've been hoping this for the last year when it started happening about a year ago. And there's been 3 versions of Unity since, and they still haven't magically gone. That error hasn't magically gone away. But it did arrive when with a specific version of Unity. I'd love to rewind and go back to the older version. Maybe I even could do that, but I don't want to. I like all the new features. It has been happening for a year. Yeah, it's one of those things where sometimes it acts up. Like here, it's just like puking it like crazy. And then some days I'll fire up the editor and it won't do it much at all, if at all. And you see it maybe once or twice at the most. But I wish it was just the editor. It's not, because if you run the game like a build and you look at the output log, it'll actually you'll see some of these things spit out. Sometimes there's like thousands, and sometimes there's like a couple dozen, but it's there. So it's not just the editor. So it might be my fault, but it's like a threads. It's a threaded thing, so it's difficult stuff to debug, frankly, because often that is, if it's on a thread, it's probably somewhere in the depths of Unity that's complaining, and you can't just hit a breakpoint and see what's going on, because you're often no source code land. That's not so awesome. So maybe okay for people that have bought full code licenses, but I am not in that pay grade. All right, so let's go back to this. Let's just fix it up. So here I'm drawing the northeast corner, I'm drawing the southeast corner, and what I'm doing is, okay, so the northeast corner is at the maximum. So the northeast is the maximum value, right? If a map is from 0 to 64, 0 to 64 is by 64, 64 by 64 comma 64 is at the northeast corner. So what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna pull this the corner drawing back 1 level, because we need to make one more band worth of clear space. And then I'm going to draw the southeast corner. And so the southeast corner is a high value of X, and then it is a low value of Y, because it's near 0. And so I'm going to change these 2s to 3s, basically, is what you're going to see here. And that'll bring all the corners in one level from this min-max space that I've sort of set aside as my outpost. So now we have the wall that we're drawing, and all I'm going to do here is I'm just going to pull it in by 1 as well. I'm probably going to have to do more, because the space that gets set aside for the interior also relies on having open space on all edges, but I'm not going to worry about that right now. I'd kind of like just to see this sweet new wall working. So you see here, it's drawn a north wall, an east wall, a west wall, and on the south wall always is 2 chunks of wall, and with a gap in the middle. So that's the entrance. That I got to fix at some point. I'd like the entrance to be on any side. I'd also like there to be maybe more than one entrance in a lot of cases, because really it's kind of a drag if you're way on the opposite side of the map and there's no entrance and you got to go all the way around just to get inside. So I could do that, or I could make the walls a little more destructible. So maybe I'll go with the walls more destructible. That's more fun. All right, I'm gonna save this out. So yeah, this is a little bit of a derp-handed way of doing it, but I'm gonna hope it's not a problem with Unity files that have gone wrong during upgrade. No, no, it's been I've tried all versions of Unity. It's happened before and after pretty consistently the same. Um, it is possible that an upgrade a year ago went wrong, I guess, if that's what you're suggesting. I don't actually know whether that's something that can happen, where you just have a bad upgrade. Oh, look at that! There's a big freaking pile of dirt. Look at this. Like, I'm using this pile of dirt here as an obstacle, and personally, I hate it. I still use it because it's nice to have a pile of dirt. But like just a pile of dirt among a bunch of ground space is not particularly great. So this is interesting. I pulled the walls in. I pulled the corners in. And the problem I'm having right here is actually that the center of the patch is not in a consistent spot. This is all my fault. Totally my fault. Well, it's not like it's your fault. Why would it be your guys' fault? What's funny is I kind of like it being all ramshackle like this, where there's gaps and stuff like that, because it kind of looks a little more like really what I want, which is just not too clean. So I might even go with this. Not like this literally, but this feel where it's got some breaks in it and stuff like that. I already like that. And now the roads have places to go, right? So what happens is everything gets laid out, and then it goes to every site. So each one of those patches I showed you earlier has a site attached to it. And those are always road endpoints. And so it makes sure that there's always a road from every site to every other site. And a site might have a watchtower in it, it might have an oil tank in it. In this case, here's apparently a site with a barrel and nothing else in it. So must be a really important barrel. That's where they keep all their best explosives. So the point is that now the roads are kind of weaving through this city area a little more readily because there's breaks in the world. So interesting. So, my God, it's 3. I would love to fix this. Try once more and see if I can get my head around this. Otherwise, start wrapping up. Let's see. Workspaces, Outpost work. Oops, Patchwork. Outpost work. So the one thing I want to make sure I know is where the origin of this patch is. So if I go to the patch editor, all right, let's load the overworld stuff. What am I thinking? The origin's always in the at 0, 0. Everything is always relative to that. Now I can make that differently, but in this case, 0, 0 is the corner of both this new alt corner and this wall. So when it rotates around that center point. I thought the origin was actually at the patch. I don't know why. Sweet. All right. Okay. Let's go, gamer. Oh, Mr. Pink Dude. Is this Jay? Is this totally Jay? Jay Pink? Oh my God. I really want to know. He totally showed up when I'm like running out of gas and all that. Hey, type auto fire. This is the game I'm working on, Jay. Assuming it's you. All right. All right. I don't recall. Apparently, I have no way to indicate where the center is on this patch, and I might need that down the road. Yes, all right, nice. It's my brother-in-law. So, Mr. Pink Dude, welcome. You're just in time for me to wrap up, but hey, that's all right. Glad to have you here. Let's get the Outpost. So you can see from the rough area, this is what it laid out. This is actually a little clearer to read. You can see that this corner was pushed out a little more than it should have been. This wall was pushed out a little more than it should have been. And this is all because it was rotated, right? So when you rotate something, it's going to rotate around whatever the center point is. And in this case, it was the corner. It wasn't actually the center line of the wall. It was actually the corner. So, all right. Tell you what, I am super exhausted, and I'm gonna run this just quickly so I can blow some stuff up. But if anyone else have any questions about this stuff? Barton, if you happen to be there, you got to ask some questions, because this is a system I'm hoping that you might be able to learn, this patch stuff. But otherwise, I am going to destroy some watchtowers, mount some multi-rockets again, because that's always fun. Emily's my sister. Okay. She does dig the reality TV, I think. So I've been known to partake, but I totally know the feels, bro. So just a real quick wrap up. Autofire is it's a car combat RPG, right? So it's cool stuff to it, right? So I can load out my car with a whole bunch of different weaponry, give it special ram plates, armor upgrades, better tires, and all that stuff, and variety of different capabilities like oil slicks, which obviously aren't going to mess with that guy. People on foot, although it'd be great if they slipped around like. I don't know, comedy gold, but we'll just start with cars skidding out. I'm going to spawn some car, bandit, cruiser, bandit, scout, crusher. Let's get some crusher. And obviously all this map is procedurally generated. And basically you go out into the world, you collect loot, you go from place to place, haul cargo, do a little Smoking the Bandit sometimes, convoys, compete in the arena, and build up your name. So this is all part of a game that is coming to Kickstarter in January. And if you're interested in just keeping in touch with the game, the best thing you could do for me, the coolest thing, would be to wishlist it on Steam, which you can see a link to right there if you type Autofire. Yeah, if you go to the itch.io page, you can download the work in progress, which is pretty much close to what you see here, but it's also linked to the Steam wishlist. So, all right, well. Thanks, everyone. This has been pretty cool and fairly educational for me, just as much as hopefully for you. Hey, look at that. Got all this weapon data here, so if you ever want to see tons of nerdery, I can always show you that stuff, but I'm sure you don't. All right, thanks for coming by, Jay. I will see you guys all later on. Oh, yeah. Thanks for coming by, Kilby. All right, you guys take it easy. See you next week.